Welcome, everyone. Today, we're actually going to skip the traditional table of contents. Instead, I want to take you on a journey to solve this massive, unifying puzzle that we've pieced together from a really fascinating stack of recent scientific articles, historical data, and geopolitical analyses. We're going to look at how power, survival, and technology all follow the exact same hidden rule. Okay, let's dive into this. What do a 12-million-year-old feathered dinosaur, human embryos, and the CIA have in common? I know, it sounds like a totally bizarre riddle, right? But the source materials we're breaking down today reveal a stunning connection between these seemingly entirely unrelated things. It really all comes down to this one big idea, the evolutionary niche. Basically, the research shows that life, technology, and absolute power all evolve by finding empty, completely unregulated spaces. When you find a space with no established rules and no bigger predators around, you don't just survive, you dominate. Let's look at how this plays out, starting with our first example from the physical world. Section 1. Exploiting the unregulated niche. Let's travel back in time for a second to establish our baseline. Recent paleontological discoveries in China revealed this fascinating creature called Jianchengmaiensis. It's a 120-million-year-old feathered microraptor. Now, researchers point out that while massive, terrifying predators absolutely dominated the ground, this tiny dinosaur survived by adapting to an entirely new, unregulated vertical world, the trees. By moving up into the canopy, it found an empty niche, completely free from the old rules of ground combat. And this perfectly illustrates our core theme. Survival belongs to those who find the empty spaces. Moving on to Section 2, rewriting the biological code. Jumping forward 120 million years, scientists are discovering a brand new, wildly unregulated niche right inside our very own DNA. So for a while, science relied on CRISPR, which essentially acts like molecular scissors. It cuts and destroys specific DNA sections, but it can be a bit messy, sometimes causing unintended chromosomal damage. But a recent breakthrough at Columbia University used something called base editing on the PCSK9 and HBG genes. Unlike CRISPR, base editing doesn't just blindly cut, it precisely replaces individual nucleotides. It is literally like a highly accurate biological text editor. And here's why this matters so much. As the sources point out, we have entered the totally unregulated frontier of human design. These ultra-precise edits have successfully been made to single-cell and two-cell embryos. Now, there are still physical risks, like mosaicism, which is where an embryo becomes a mix of edited and unedited cells. But the potential here is staggering. We're talking about eliminating inherited diseases, sure, but it also opens the door to selecting traits like height or intelligence. Bioethicists point out that science is rushing into an unregulated biological niche at a speed that traditional laws simply cannot keep up with. Section 3. The rise of Palantir. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of the puzzle is how we can take this exact same concept of the unregulated niche and apply it directly to the corporate world. According to financial and historical analyses, Palantir's evolution is basically a masterclass in dominating empty spaces. It started back in 2002 with Peter Thiel and his team at PayPal building algorithms to catch financial fraud. Well, Thiel realized the same tech could hunt terrorists. In 2004, they secured a crucial $2 million investment from In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's venture capital arm. This gave them the keys to a highly secretive, totally unregulated niche, state intelligence. By 2008, they launched Gotham for the military, linking up fragmented intelligence data. By 2016, they expanded with Foundry to manage global corporate supply chains. And in 2023, they introduced AI, bringing artificial intelligence directly into the military decision-making process. And this strategy resulted in a mind-boggling figure. By mid-2025, Palantir's market capitalization approached $400 billion. They transitioned from just selling a software product to becoming the invisible, essential infrastructure, literally the electricity powering global governments and militaries. But this dominance in the data niche carries immense gravity. As Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, stated flatly on live television, our product is sometimes used to kill people. The algorithms developed by this private company now assist in military targeting, they manage National Health Service data, and they've been implicated in political profiling. The unregulated niche of big data has profound, very real-world consequences. Which brings us to Section 4, Silicon Valley versus the state. The texts lay out this incredibly fascinating geopolitical theory. They argue that traditional state power is silently being privatized. Historically, Silicon Valley just wanted to sell ads and consumer products. But today, traditional law is increasingly being replaced by corporate terms of service. We're seeing the rise of what analysts call a global high-tech collective that operates completely outside physical borders. And remember in QTEL? Intelligence agencies are no longer just government bodies. They are venture capital co-investors in this massive tech empire.
And this brilliantly illustrates a profound clash of systems. On one side, you have the traditional state, the old Westphalian system defined by physical borders, constitutions, and slow-moving bureaucracies. On the other side, you have this global high-tech collective. Their geography isn't based on square miles, right? It's based on data nodes, deep ocean optic cables, and rapid algorithms. They don't have constitutions. They have terms of service.
Section 5, War as a Testing Ground. So what actually happens when these two completely different management systems collide? Well, our sources provide a really detached analysis of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine through this exact lens. The analysis impartially views the conflict as a clash of structural models. It describes the Russian system as an outdated, traditional industrial machine. It's slow, relies on massive, rigid hierarchies, and expects to fight a traditional sovereign state. Conversely, it views the Ukrainian system of governance on the ground as a decentralized startup. It operates on fluid rules, informal agreements, and instant manual control rather than strict institutional laws. And according to the analysts, this clash creates the ultimate unregulated niche. With traditional legal institutions collapsing in a conflict zone, global tech companies view it as an institutional clean slate. It basically becomes a massive laboratory for testing artificial intelligence, real-time facial recognition, and autonomous drone weapons without the legal barriers or privacy laws that would completely restrict them in peacetime. The sources refer to this terrifying concept as digital neo-feudalism. All right, Section 6, the pushback and our future. But hey, the traditional physical world isn't just rolling over here. A surprisingly diverse center of resistance has emerged, and each traditional power is using its own unique strengths to fight back. China uses a massive digital wall, ensuring tech billionaires remain strictly subordinate to the political hierarchy. The US Pentagon is pushing back because they realize software doesn't shoot. They demand actual physical mass, metal, ships, and weapons over just lines of code. Meanwhile, the US Department of Justice is using old anti-monopoly laws to try and break up big tech. The European Union, lacking their own tech giants, uses what the texts call suffocating legalism, tying algorithms up in endless red tape and massive fines. And resource nations? They are fiercely guarding the physical reality, the actual lithium and fuel that these massive data centers desperately need to even run. Let's move to and see how this builds a case for a natural alternative highlighted in the texts. Is there a way for us to self-organize without being controlled by a central state or a massive corporate algorithm? The sources actually point back to biology, specifically to swarm intelligence. Consider bees. Scout bees explore, they return and perform a really complex dance to share data, and then the entire swarm essentially votes and relocates collectively. There is no central boss. It's a natural, decentralized alternative, proving that complex systems can adapt without top-down authoritarian control. But right now, we are in a highly precarious transition. One of the sources explicitly warns, the logos is being replaced by the algorithm. Now, logos represents the era of transparent, rational law, where cause and effect make sense, and you can actually argue your case in court. But an algorithm? That's a black box. It makes decisions based on millions of hidden data points, replacing clear, understandable laws with invisible code that you literally cannot appeal. Which brings us to our final, defining question. In this rapidly evolving digital ecosystem, where traditional laws are fading into corporate terms of service, what happens to your basic rights when a closed-source algorithm simply defines you as a system error? I really want you to think about that as you navigate the technology you use every single day. Thanks for exploring this puzzle with me, and we'll see you on the next explainer.